is to activate it. AF1, the Futurtarian. This video is going to be on the power of numbers. This video is going to be on the power of numbers. For the ones that can't hear us in the back, this is a video on power of numbers. See, when you're dealing with numbers, numbers have power. That's why when I tell people, when you're dealing with teachers and you're dealing with people that's on the internet, all you got to do is add up their consistent timelines. What do I mean by that, AF1? Add up their timelines. If it's consistency, if you see consistency with these numbers, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, 8, there was another number. 7, 5, 8, and 2. 7, 5, 8, and 2. If you see consistency when you add those numbers up, then you already know there's something up with them. You might not figure it out at that time, but when you're on an activation stage, you're going to figure it out real quick and real swift. So the power in numbers, when people say there's strength in numbers, yeah, that's true on the physical. That's true on the physical and somewhat on the mental also. But the physical, more on the physical, like when you're dealing with gang members, when you're dealing with organizations and they got all these numbers, all these people up in their camps, that's fine. There's strength in numbers, but that doesn't mean there's power. There's a difference between strength and power. Because if you're dealing with somebody, one individual, I'm going to give you an example. We're dealing with one individual. Let's use Bill Gates, for example. Right? I'm using Bill Gates as an example on him coming out and making all these patents on the vaccines, right? That's one man, and you know he has a council. You got to keep a council. So that's power. That's one man manipulating the whole planet and having people think on a certain aspect and a certain level if you allow it to get in your mind. See, because there's always going to be power in numbers also when you're dealing with the galactical code system. The galactical code system is going to stay the same in its 3D reality. It's going to stay the same. That's why I said when you're adding up these timelines that you can see, you know, the teachers and people that's out here that's trying to teach and they're trying to, you know, move stuff forward, which, you know, I give credit where credit's due. I give credit where credit is due. So the power in numbers. Breaking down these numbers. What do all these numbers mean? Really think about it. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the 0. But then you also have the 1 and the 0 at the beginning, and then they put the 0 at the end for a reason, because they didn't put the 0 at the front, because then it would be backwards. It'd be 0, 1 and not 1, 0. So that's why they did that. It's all code system, galactical code system. So there's always going to be power in the number galactical code system, and there's going to be strength. There's strength in numbers. There's a difference, because all it takes is one to alter and shift a whole planet. Why the internet is moving things faster on this planet than what teachers think. See, the Ethernet, which is the internet, was called the Ethernet and also called the World Wide Web at one point. It's moving things faster than what a lot of people really think. Activating minds, getting stuff moving faster than what the average person or the average thinker thinks. Even some of the top thinkers, they don't realize that the internet was put out for activation. The internet was put out for activation to get what? The junk DNA, which is not junk DNA. It's just a strain of DNA that could be activated that also gets your mind moving faster, dealing with your neurotransmitters in your mind, the ones that are not being activated by electricity in your mind. It starts to extend and move your percentage of your mind forward. So that's what's dealing with the internet, the Ethernet. The Ethernet is very critical. Now, when you're dealing with these fallen demons, because you got fallen demons and you got fallen angels. And I'm not talking about religion, because religion took that stuff and twisted it up. I'm talking about the ones that understand that the internet is where it's at, because if the internet wasn't out, these demons will be on the block. They'll be on the block, or they'll be, you know, in a auditorium or something like that, trying to gather up and harvest souls. So that's what demons do. But then you got the true fallen ones of the 200 fallen, which came back from the future to activate certain ones that are a part of that genetic strain, which is the 200 fallen. So that's why the internet came out. The internet came out for intel and not information. Information is good when you're dealing with buying something, searching for a property, searching for a person, dealing with everything in this physical realm. But it also has to deal with the intel that's being pushed out, the stuff that's coming next, the futuristic next intel that's being pushed out. That's why the internet's out. That's the main reason, or like I said, the source. Tapping into the main source is very critical in these times, dealing with the Futurtarians, being tapped in and being one step ahead of people, one step ahead of people's minds that's on the planet, being on an activation level of scanning, an activation level of predicting the future, an activation level on moving people forward and coming together as a collective council and not looking back at the past, not going backwards, always going forwards. This ain't the Flintstones, this the Jetsons. Dealing with the zero. Dealing with the zero. Now, who are the real zeros on the planet? The real zeros on the planet are going to be under the 200 fallen. Those are considered zeros. So just like allegedly the 256 people that run the planet right now, they're looking at everybody as zeros. Even the top workers, when you're dealing with the top workers, they're looking at them as zeros and them as the ones. Them as the ones. They're looking at themselves as the ones that really play a factor at this day and time. At this point in I don't even want to use the word history, but at this point in time in this realm, they know that everybody else, when you're dealing with the sheeple, aka the people, they know to keep their minds on a level of non-evolvement. Their minds on a level of non-evolvement. Well, how do you do that, AF1? You do that through radio frequencies. Radio, what's the ray? The ray is the Ra. What does Ra represent? Ra represents the sun, which is radiation. That's why they put ray in front of the radio, because that was the radiation that was coming from the sun. And the D was the dimensions, to keep you tapping into the higher dimensions. What was the I? The I represented the 1 and the 0 represented the 10. Some more intel for you teachers. So that's why they made it the word radio for that reason, because it was the Ra. I'm gonna say it again for the ones that are slow. It's the Ra. The Ra equals the sun, which equals the radiation, the magnetism, the plasma that's beaming through the atmosphere, and also the D. The D represents the dimensions, to keep you from the upper dimensions. Then the I in the 0 represents the 10, radio, to keep you from tapping into that 10, breaking out the 6 and the 9 and turning into a 10. I broke that down years ago. But the true zeros of the planet is not the ones that are going to be a part of the 200 fallen. That's the true zeros of the planet. Sounds harsh, but that's what's happening right now as far as who's running the planet. Like I said, allegedly, I think it's 256 people. I'm not sure, dealing with Google and, Siri and Alexa, dealing with information. But yeah, that's basically what they're saying, is that, dealing with the quantum computer also, going back to the quantum. Because when I started electric quad frequency, when I had that going on, it wasn't, the quad was it didn't mean the 4. It was short for quantum. And I had this one big-headed teacher. He's like, "Oh yeah, you stole the aquatic or something like that." I'm like, "Whatever, dude. It was quantum. That's what it represented." See, I didn't even say that because it didn't even matter, because we're further in the future than that clown. So that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the quantum realm, going into the quantum realm, which when you Google the quantum realm, it's one and zeros. They're all galactical code systems. So that's what I meant. He didn't catch that because he's not further in the future. Dealing with the number 11 with the galactical code system. See, the number 11, that number is the most critical number in this 3D reality. The number 11 is the top number in this 3D reality. Now I'm gonna give you an example. When you're dealing with, I think when you're dealing with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his number was the 7. I'm not sure. And I think Dr. Malachi Z. York was the 9. And then Nuben Menkarez, his number was the 10. The Futurtarians, our number is the 11. Now, what does the 11 represent? If you go back to my page, if you go back to the Futurtarian Activation channel, and you look at my video 1111, when it was the multiple, it was the ones walking through the portal, meeting the other ones on the other side. So that's why the Futurtarian number is the 11, because it's the ones walking next with the ones. The ones walking next with the ones. That's why the Futurtarian's number is the number 11, the top number. There's nothing after the ones walking with the ones, because you're going to have ones walking with zeros, and they're going to accept it for the simple fact that they don't care about the mind activation factor. Whatever they care about don't even matter, because the 11 is the top number. That's the Futurtarian's number. The one linear walking with the one linear. The ones with the ones. It's the activated Futurtarian AF1. If you like the way the world is, don't like, don't share, don't subscribe. If you want it to alter, move at the speed of light. Peace, power, and soul.